Wayne literally kicked me and my daughter out on.
Lil Wayne and Denise Bidot seemed like the ultimate ride-or-die couple, surviving years of public highs and lows, but no one could have predicted the absolute devastation that was about to unfold behind closed doors. Imagine recovering from a grueling, painful major surgery, completely vulnerable, only to receive a cold, heartless text message ending your entire relationship on Mother's Day. But it gets worse. While you are still physically unable to even lift a box, your partner's assistants show up at the door, forcing you and your young daughter out of the mansion and onto the streets without a second thought. This isn't just a messy celebrity breakup anymore. This is a calculated, public humiliation that has officially crossed the line into a legal warfare. Denise Bidot is done protecting the rap icon, and she has officially retaliated by filing a massive, explosive lawsuit that threatens to expose everything. The curtain has been pulled back, the assistants have been called out, and the secret life Lil Wayne was living behind the scenes is about to be dragged into the courtroom light. This is the definitive, unfiltered breakdown of how a superstar's toxic betrayal turned into a multi-million-dollar legal nightmare. To understand how this relationship collapsed into absolute chaos, we have to look at the exact moment the public facade shattered completely. Denise Bidot took to social media to reveal a reality that left the entire industry completely stunned. This wasn't just a quiet, mutual decision to part ways behind closed doors. It was a sudden, jarring eviction that caught her completely off guard during one of the most physically vulnerable periods of her life.
Mother's Day today, and I am just recovering from surgery. I am 5 weeks out from a full mommy makeover. I can't even lift boxes, but this man has his assistants and people coming to help kick us out.
The timing of this entire ordeal is what makes it truly unbelievable. According to her own words, Lil Wayne chose Mother's Day to completely sever ties. For any mother, this is a day meant for celebration, family, and peace, but instead she was forced to deal with the immediate reality of being cast out of her home. The emotional toll of being told your relationship is over via a text message is heavy enough, but the logistical nightmare that followed made the situation infinitely worse. She was not just dealing with the heartbreak of a failed relationship. She was dealing with a severe physical limitation. Just 5 weeks prior to this incident, she had undergone a major surgery, specifically a full mommy makeover. Anyone familiar with the medical recovery process for extensive surgical procedures knows that a 5-week timeline leaves a patient incredibly weak, sore, and highly restricted in their movements. She explicitly stated that she was physically incapable of lifting boxes or doing any heavy manual labor. Yet, despite this clear medical vulnerability, the process of removing her from the property moved forward without any hesitation. Instead of a direct, face-to-face conversation between two people who had shared years of their lives together, the entire eviction was handled with cold, corporate-like efficiency. The hip-hop mogul did not show up to discuss the terms of their separation or give her a reasonable window of time to gather her belongings and arrange for safe transport. Instead, he delegated the entire task to his personal staff. His assistants and hired security personnel arrived at the mansion with explicit instructions to oversee the immediate departure of his former fiancée and her young daughter. This created an incredibly tense, humiliating environment. Imagine being trapped in a massive mansion, recovering from surgery, while a team of assistants packs up your life and escorts you toward the exit. It was a stark, painful reminder of the massive power imbalance that often exists in relationships with ultra-wealthy celebrities. When the superstar decides he wants you gone, the standard rules of empathy, patience, and basic human decency are completely thrown out the window. The inclusion of her daughter in this eviction added an entirely new layer of anger and distress to the situation. It wasn't just an adult dispute between two romantic partners anymore. A young child was caught directly in the crossfire of a chaotic celebrity breakup. Being forced out onto the street under the supervision of assistants is a deeply traumatic experience for a minor, and it highlights a complete lack of regard for the stability and safety of a family unit. The public reaction to these revelations was immediate and intensely polarized. For years, the couple had maintained an on-again, off-again dynamic that kept the media guessing, but this crossed a definitive line. People were utterly repulsed by the sheer cruelty of using Mother's Day as the backdrop for such a heartless move. The contrast between the public image of a beloved, legendary rapper and the private image of a man using his staff to throw a recovering woman and her child out of a house was too sharp to ignore. But Denise Bidot made it clear very early on that she was not going to quietly accept this treatment or fade into the background. By documenting the immediate aftermath of the eviction and speaking directly to her audience, she laid the groundwork for a massive public relations and legal battle. She openly acknowledged the confusion, the pain, and the sheer disbelief of trying to process how someone she loved deeply could orchestrate such a calculated betrayal. This wasn't just a vent session. It was the opening salvo in a war that would transition from the court of public opinion straight into a formal court of law, where every text message, every assistant's action, and every piece of medical documentation would be scrutinized under a legal microscope.
And broke up with me on Mother's Day through text.
And
her birthday's next weekend. And I leave to New York this week for all the Sports Illustrated press. When I tell you that I am absolutely unsure on how to even process my emotions, if y'all got
The transition from a messy public breakup to a high-stakes legal battle happened with incredible speed. When Denise Bidot looked directly into the camera and asked her followers for top-tier lawyer recommendations, she was signaling to Lil Wayne and his entire legal team that the phase of emotional processing was officially over. She was shifting into a tactical legal mindset. A celebrity of his stature is surrounded by highly paid, aggressive defense attorneys whose entire job is to minimize damage, protect assets, and keep troubling personal details hidden behind non-disclosure agreements and private settlements. By bypassing the usual back-and-forth negotiations and going straight for a public search for legal representation, she took away his team's ability to control the narrative from behind closed doors. The lawsuit that followed this public outcry completely reshaped the narrative around the hip-hop icon. This was no longer just a story about a bad breakup. It became a formal legal record detailing a toxic and hostile environment. In the filed documents, Denise Bidot laid out a pattern of behavior that painted a drastically different picture of the rapper than the one presented to the public. The core of the lawsuit focuses heavily on the intentional infliction of emotional distress, breach of domestic agreements, and the reckless disregard for her health and safety during a critical post-surgical recovery period. The legal strategy employed by her team focuses heavily on the concept of vulnerability and duty of care. When two people live together in a long-term, committed relationship, especially one where marriage plans have been publicly discussed, there are certain legal expectations regarding domestic stability. You cannot simply use private security and personal assistance to execute a summary eviction of a cohabitant without following proper legal channels, regardless of who owns the deed to the mansion. The fact that she was explicitly dependent on that household for a safe recovery environment while healing from a major surgery amplifies the severity of the claims. Her legal team argues that orchestrating a stressful, sudden eviction while she was medically restricted from even lifting her own belongings constitutes an act of malice designed to cause maximum psychological harm. Furthermore, the lawsuit aims to pull back the curtain on the role his personal staff played during that fateful Mother's Day. In many celebrity households, assistants and security guards operate as an extension of the celebrity's will, often doing the dirty work to keep the star's hands clean. The lawsuit specifically names the actions of these assistants, detailing how they entered the living spaces, demanded her immediate departure, and forced a recovering mother and her young daughter out onto the streets. By targeting the actions of the staff, the lawsuit creates a situation where those employees could be called to testify under oath, forcing them to choose between protecting their employer or telling the truth in a court of law to protect themselves from liability. The emotional weight of the lawsuit also addresses the damage done to her daughter. In any legal dispute involving a household, the impact on a minor caught in the crossfire is heavily weighed by the courts. The deliberate choice to disrupt a child's living situation on a day meant to honor mothers is being used as clear evidence of a calculated, vindictive motive rather than a standard, rational separation. As the legal proceedings began to unfold, the public learned more about the deeper fractures in the relationship that led up to this boiling point. Denise Bidot openly stated that she had been nothing but supportive of him throughout their time together, loving him unconditionally. The contrast between her years of loyalty and the sudden, cold betrayal became the central theme of her legal and public argument. For Lil Wayne, this lawsuit represents a massive threat to his legacy and financial empire. A public trial would mean exposing personal text messages, financial arrangements, and the inner workings of his private life to the public eye. The multi-million-dollar legal battle isn't just about a payout. It is about accountability, forcing a powerful industry titan to answer for his actions in a place where his fame and status carry no weight. Behind the closed gates of the mansion, the situation deteriorated into a completely different kind of nightmare as Denise Bidot dropped a massive bombshell regarding what allegedly happened right before the assistants were called in. While the public was initially focused on the cruel timing of the Mother's Day text message, the legal documents hint at a far more dangerous escalation. She claims that the breakup wasn't just cold and distant, it allegedly turned physical. The trauma of being forced out of your home while recovering from a serious surgical procedure is massive, but facing physical intimidation or aggression in your most vulnerable state changes the entire nature of this dispute. It elevates the situation from a standard civil lawsuit about property and broken promises straight into the realm of severe personal injury and domestic misconduct. If these allegations of physical misconduct are proven true in a court of law, the consequences for Lil Wayne will stretch far beyond a simple financial settlement. The hip-hop industry has historically protected its biggest icons from personal scandals, but the legal landscape has shifted drastically. Courts and the public are no longer willing to look the other way when a powerful figure faces credible, documented accusations of abuse. Denise Bidot's legal team is reportedly moving forward with a strategy that treats this not just as a breach of an implied domestic contract, but as a severe violation of her safety. They are compiling medical records from her recent surgery, photographic evidence, and timeline data to show that her physical well-being was actively put at risk during the altercation. The defense strategy from the rapper's camp has predictably been focused on absolute damage control and aggressive denial. His attorneys are fully aware that a prolonged public trial involving allegations of throwing a recovering mother and a child onto the streets, coupled with claims of physical escalation, could completely dismantle his corporate partnerships, streaming revenue and touring legacy. Their initial moves have been focused on trying to get the lawsuit dismissed or pushed into private arbitration, away from the prying eyes of the media. They are attempting to frame the incident as a private, emotional disagreement that has been exaggerated for financial gain. However, Denise Bidot has made it explicitly clear through her actions that she is not looking for a quiet, under-the-table payoff to protect his reputation. She wants a formal judgment that holds him accountable under the law. What makes this entire legal battle so incredibly compelling is the sheer hypocrisy it exposes within the lifestyle of the ultra-wealthy. While Denise Bidot was packing what she could carry, she alleged that Lil Wayne was already moving on, claiming he had multiple women being flown into the mansion that very same day. This detail wasn't just shared to expose his personal life, it serves a vital legal purpose in her lawsuit. It demonstrates a complete lack of emotional distress or regret on his part, establishing a pattern of willful, reckless behavior designed to humiliate his former partner as quickly and completely as possible. It paints a picture of a man who views the people in his life as entirely disposable assets that can be replaced by his staff at a moment's notice. As the pretrial discovery phase moves forward, both sides are digging in for a massive war of attrition. Denise Bidot's attorneys are demanding access to all communication logs, text messages, and security footage from the mansion on that specific Mother's Day. They want to show the exact sequence of events, from the moment the text message was sent, to the arrival of the assistants, to the final moments when she and her daughter were left outside. For Lil Wayne, the pressure to settle is mounting daily, but the sheer scale of the accusations means that any settlement would have to include significant admissions of responsibility and an astronomical financial cost. Denise Bidot has successfully turned her moments of deepest vulnerability into a powerful stance for accountability, proving that no matter how legendary a superstar might be, they are still bound by the laws of the land when they cross the line into cruelty. This toxic fallout between Lil Wayne and Denise Bidot is far from over, and as the legal battle intensifies, more shocking details are bound to surface from the courtroom. Now it is your turn to weigh in on this absolute mess. Do you think Lil Wayne crossed a definitive line by using his assistants to evict his recovering fiancée and her daughter on Mother's Day? Or do you believe there is more to this story that the public hasn't seen yet? How do you think this massive lawsuit will impact his legendary status in the hip-hop industry moving forward? Let your voice be heard and drop your exact thoughts in the comments below. We want to see your breakdowns and opinions on this entire situation. If you want to stay completely ahead of the curve on this developing legal warfare and get the fastest updates on your favorite celebrities, make sure to smash that like button right now and subscribe to the channel. We are tracking every single court filing, text leak, and public statement as they happen, and you definitely do not want to miss what comes out next. Hit that notification bell so you are immediately alerted the second our next deep dive video drops. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting the channel. Stay safe, keep your eyes open, and we will catch you right here in the very next video.